up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. And as always, we have ourselves a jam-packed show as we have a lot of volleyball to discuss. As we had a quiet week in NCAA men's women's volleyball, but there were still some upsets in the Big 12, such as Arizona taking down BYU. Can the Wildcats make the big dance? Also, how about UCF? They continue to pull off some upsets in the Big 12 as they take down Iowa State. And how about Kansas State taking down Baylor in straight sets as well? What is going on in the Big 12? Also, how about Sierra Canyon doing the unthinkable and taking down Mater Dei in the CIF Southern Section Division I Championship? Yes, I've got some crow to eat on this week's show, and I do apologize to Sierra Canyon for picking against them. Also, we had some NCAA men's volleyball happening over the weekend as Long Beach State hosted the fall tournament. What evaluations were taken away from that said tournament? Champion volleyball, that's next. So I'm about to bring some volleyball action here on Set Point. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on iSports Radio. Your feed for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon, Monday evening, Monday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made your way into episode 324 of Set Point. And without any further delay, let's begin. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without iSports Radio providing the platform to go live on YouTube, Twitch, and on X. Please do follow iSports Radio on several different social media platforms, being X and TikTok. Also, subscribe to iSports Radio on YouTube. We would greatly appreciate it. We're trying to reach 500 subscribers, and with your help, we could definitely make it happen. So definitely do subscribe to iSports Radio. And if you aren't following iSports Radio on social media, definitely do so. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that sports, because for the last 10 plus years, iSports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, what I did last weekend, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports across the country. And again, thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. A huge shout out to two of our two sponsors, Planet Jerky, Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, and Vital Apparel. So without any further delay, let's get on in to what our sponsors are all about. I shall see you in a little bit.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clinking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out both of our sponsors and show them the love. And we appreciate them for being the official sponsors of IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. And the way you can follow Setpoint on social media is on X and TikTok at set_point.ie. I promise you all, I will get the TikTok fired up again. Last week I said I would get it fired up, but unfortunately I didn't get around to posting. After this show, I promise you I'll get it posted. All my content and whatnot. And also, you can follow Setpoint on Instagram as well at set_point.iesr. That's where I'm starting to post a majority of my content, whether it's at the high school level or at the collegiate level or at the pro level. So there you have it. That's where you can follow Setpoint on social media. So that being said, let's get on into the volleyball action. So week 11 of the NCAA women's volleyball season. So it was a quiet week as we only had 3 upsets as opposed to the 13 upsets that we had the previous week in week 10. So we'll start off on Wednesday. We'll start off with the border battle. Wisconsin taking on Minnesota. Minnesota trying to earn a little bit more respect from the AVCA committee, while Wisconsin trying to make sure it doesn't fall out of the top 16 if they did, they would basically not host. But in the end, Wisconsin was able to take down Minnesota in 4 sets. They won the first 2 sets. Minnesota responded very well in the 3rd set, but Wisconsin was able to finish them off in the 4th set as the Badgers were led by Mimi Collier, who had 21 kills. Carter Booth had 6 kills. Una Vahic added 11 kills. And then Grace Egan, good to have her back. She had 8 kills. As a team, Wisconsin hit 311, which was pretty darn good, if you ask me. And Kristen Simon added 16 digs to lead Wisconsin in that department. For Minnesota, they were led by Julia Hansen, who had 21 kills. Kelly Kinney added 11 kills. And then Carly Gilk had 8 kills. Minnesota didn't play too terrible. They hit 267, and they got 15 digs from McKenna Garr. Unfortunately for the Gophers, this was just a case of what would happen if this team did have most of their starters. And it sucks that 4 of their starters are basically on the shelf for the season. And I think we would see the true better Minnesota, but that's just how it is. And that's tough life in the big city, if you ask me. Then we had the Battle of Florida, the Sunshine State battle, as we had number 14 Miami hosting Florida State. Now, Florida State has not been on anyone's radar, but they did appear on everyone's radar as they pushed Miami to the brink, but in the end, Miami was able to pull off the 5-set win. And you're about to see that wasn't the only time they went 5. So Flo Marie Heredia-Colon just continues to be on a tear. She had 42 kills. She had 284, and she had 9 digs. Very impressive night for her. Amina Njai added 10 kills to go along with 4 digs. So good to see Flo Marie getting some help. And then they got 5 kills from 4 different players as the Canes hit 221, which wasn't bad. They also got 68 digs as a team. They had 10 blocks overall and had 7 aces to 13 service errors. Now for the Noles, they were led by Ian Hankey and Kylene Fiji Mua, who both had 20 kills. Peyton Whalen also had 5 kills. Nenu Kapia added 6 kills as the Noles actually hit 260, and they actually outblocked Miami 13 to 10, which was pretty good. Unfortunately, they only had one ace and they missed a bunch of serves. They missed 9 serves, which is not the best service ace service error ratio. But I will say this for Florida State, they were pretty solid for them not being the most on the radar team. They pushed Miami to the brink, which was very impressive if you ask me. So I gotta give them a little bit of a tip of the invisible cap. Unfortunately, it was just not meant to be. And again, that's tough life in the big city. So overall, a good fight from the Noles, but that just goes to show that Miami is just on a whole other level. Then we had number 8 Arizona State sweeping Texas Tech. That wasn't too surprising. But on the other side, we had Arizona taking down number 21 BYU in 4, which was very impressive. All the sets were close as Arizona did win the first set 26-24. They dropped the second set 25-21, won the third set 25-22, and inched out the fourth set, winning that 26-24, which was very good on their behalf. As the Wildcats pulled off another upset in the Big 12, as Jordan Wilson led the way with 24 kills. She had 9 digs. Carly Cisneros added 10 kills to go along with 20 digs. She actually led the Wildcats in that department as Arizona had 76 digs overall, and they had 5 aces to only 8 service errors, which is pretty good. They also had 12 blocks as a team, and despite hitting 224, it was better than BYU's 168, as the Cougars were led by Sully Davis, who had 20 kills and 15 digs. Sophia Callahan added 14 kills, and Claire Little Chambers had 10 kills and 12 digs. So BYU is just kind of going through it. I'm a little surprised BYU just is in a little bit of a funk, but overall, I think Arizona. This is kind of the nature of the Big 12. The Big 12 is a really good conference, and personally, I think BYU losing just shows that any team in that conference can beat any team by any means. So it's still a great win for the Wildcats. They were just on their A game. Speaking of on their A game in conference play, number 1 Nebraska just continues to tear through everybody. They swept Illinois with no real problems. Man, this Nebraska team just continues to get better and better, and they have yet to drop a set. And spoiler alert, they didn't. They swept their second match over the weekend, as they haven't lost a set since, I want to say, their match against Creighton. But regardless, this Nebraska team just continues to impress by the day. There's just not a lot of weaknesses on this Nebraska team. Now, I'm hoping to see Nebraska this upcoming Sunday when they play at USC, but I still have to get my you-know-what together and get into contact with Jeremy Wu, but I digress. Speaking of USC, they took down Northwestern in 4 at Galen Center. I was a little worried because they did drop the first set, and I was like, could USC actually lose to Northwestern? Because USC can ill afford any losses when it comes to their week, because they are so close to possibly hosting in the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament. If they can go the rest of the way, other than Nebraska, if they can go the rest of the way without losing too many big time matches, I think this USC team has earned the right to host in the NCAA tournament, just because it's a massive honor to host in the NCAA tournament. And personally, for the Trojans, with such a young team, I think that they've really shattered expectations. I thought they would be a little bit on the young side and building side, but they are exceeding my expectations, which is great if you ask me. They're actually tied for 4th with Indiana. That being said, the Hoosiers do have the tiebreaker over the women of Troy. I mean, this is where you kind of wish you had beaten Indiana, but Indiana was on a heater. Same thing can be said with Purdue. But back to Nebraska. This Nebraska team is not slowing down for anybody. But jumping back to USC was able to outlast Northwestern, preventing the Wildcats from pushing it to a 5th set, as USC was led by London Weejay, who had 22 kills. They also got 14 kills from Abigail Mullen and 9 kills from Leah Ford. USC hit 271. They had 62 digs. They did miss 14 serves and only had 4 aces, but they had 7 blocks as a team. And then Northwestern, they had 65 digs. They had 10 blocks as a team. They had 5 aces to only 12 service errors, or to 12 service errors, as they were led by Isabella Burlington, who had 13 kills, along with Rylan Reed. Iandi also added 10 kills. I'm just going to say this about Northwestern. They are definitely one of the more improved teams in not just in the Big Ten, but in NCAA women's volleyball as a whole. Like, you're about to see how much they've improved. Jumping to the Big 12, we had number 13 Kansas taking down Colorado in 4, which I thought was a pretty darn good win in my opinion, especially since Kansas is known for going 5, at least for this season. Grace Nelson led the way with 16 kills. They also got 13 kills from Reese Potasic and Jovana Zelenovic. Kansas as a whole only hit 211, but they held Colorado to only a hitting percentage of 123. They won the service ace service error battle as they had 12 aces to only 10 service errors, which is pretty good. They had 11 blocks and they had 56 digs. Colorado only had 46 digs, but they did have 11 blocks, and they had 7 aces to only 9 service errors, as the Buffs were led by Lily Dwinell, who had 11 kills, and they had 9 kills from Anna Berlaovic. But it wasn't enough, as Rock Chalk was able to defend its home court. Circling the wagons back to the SEC, we had number 2 Kentucky taking down Missouri in 4. Nice win for Kentucky. This could have been an easy letdown spot, especially after beating Texas, and also beating. Oh no, that was this week. But this could have easily been a big letdown spot, just because Missouri is actually still pretty darn good. We all forget that Missouri. I think this is the first meeting between the Tigers and the Wildcats since Missouri lost to Kentucky in the NCAA tournament, as the Wildcats were led by Eva Hudson, who had 21 kills. Brooklyn DeLay had 20 kills. Lizzie Carr and Asia Thigpen both had 6 kills for the Wildcats, who hit 331, which was pretty darn good. They also had 4 aces to only 6 service errors, which was pretty nice. 48 digs on the day, and they had 15 blocks, which was very good. Mizzo, on the other hand, they hit 237. They had 49 digs. Surprisingly, they won the service error battle quite convincingly. 8 aces to only 3 service errors, but they only had 6 blocks as a team, as they were led by Kaylin Alexander, who had 22 kills. Janet Damaris had 13 kills, and Tyra Ariel had 10 kills. So it was a fine effort from Missouri, especially in that third set. But losing that third set, I think, kind of tipped the scale in favor of the Wildcats, as they just rode the momentum into set 4 and were able to win that. Next up, we had number 3 Pitt sweeping Virginia Tech. No surprise there. We had number 4 Texas taking down unranked Florida in 4. It still feels weird seeing the Gators not ranked. So this wasn't too surprising, but Texas just seems a little shaky after they lost to Texas A&M and Kentucky the previous week, as the Longhorns were led by Tori Stafford, who had 21 kills. Kari Spears continues her stellar freshman year. She had 13 kills. Abby Vanderwall had 7 kills, as the Longhorns hit 324. They did miss 12 serves and only had 2 aces, but they also had 51 digs and 7 blocks as a team. They also had, and then Florida, on the other hand, they had 55 digs, which was pretty nice, and they had 9 blocks as a team. They had 4 service errors, but made up for it with 4 aces, as they were led by Jordan Bird, who had 15 kills. Jayla Auguste added 14 kills, but it wasn't enough. Oh, yeah, Alec Roth also had 7 kills, but it wasn't enough, as the Gators succumbed to the Longhorns, which that's life in the big city. Then we had this little ranked versus ranked matchup. We had the red-hot Northern Carolina Tar Heels taking on the Stanford Cardinal in Northern California. And Stanford did not make this much of a match, as they took down North Carolina in straight sets, which was very surprising. Jordan Harvey led the way for the Cardinal with 14 kills. Aaliyah Rubin had 12 kills. Erica Sayer added 9 kills. As a team, Stanford hit 333, which was very good. Only missed 6 serves, had 4 aces, had 40 digs, and they really dominated in the block department, totaling 12. UNC only had 6 blocks, only had 31 kills, only had 3 aces, but only had 5 service errors, and they hit 114. As the Tar Heels were led by Chelsea Thorpe, who had 14 kills. They also got 6 kills from Lainey Smith and Safi Hampton. I feel playing on the road just did not help North Carolina by any means. I think this was not their best performance, and this isn't the North Carolina team that we've all seen. I think this is not the team that North Carolina was supposed to be. I think they're a much better team than this. I think kind of playing on the West Coast and having that little time change kind of affected them because they're not used to playing teams on the road on the West Coast. Thanks, ACC, because obviously Stanford and Cal are both are both East Coast teams in an East Coast conference. Not. Moving on, we had number 6 Texas A&M sweeping Auburn, number 7 Louisville swept NC State. This was a nice matchup right here. Number 8 Arizona State took down BYU in 4. The Cougars actually came out swinging, taking the first set quite emphatically, 25-17. And it was looking kind of that way in set 2, but the Sun Devils were able to take that second set 28-26. They took the third set in close fashion, 23-25. And then they also took the fourth set 25-21 as the Sun Devils were led by Bailey Miller, who had 20 kills. Noemi Glover only had 11 kills, but she had 9 hitting errors. So it's good to see Arizona State having players step up whenever Glover is struggling. Colby Neal also had 8 kills, only 1 hitting error for a hitting percentage of .500. Tatum Parrott added 7 kills as the Sun Devils only hit 195, but they held BYU to only 175. Arizona wasn't too bad in terms of the serving battle as they had 3 aces to only 4 service errors. BYU had the 10 for 10 as they had 10 aces to only 10 service errors. Arizona State did have 61 digs, even though BYU did have 66 of their own. The Sun Devils also had 11 blocks, while BYU had 10. But overall, it was a great win for the Sun Devils, as BYU was led by Sully Davis, who had 20 kills. Claire Little Chambers added 13 kills, and Brielle Kamaver had 10 kills. But like I said, BYU had 66 digs. Alex Bauer led that department with 17 to go along with 45 assists. Lulu Ulave had 15 digs, and then Davis and Little Chambers had 10 digs as well. And then overall, I think that was a nice little win for Arizona State. That could have easily been a letdown spot for them, especially since BYU was coming off of a tough loss. But in my opinion, I thought Arizona State I didn't think that they were going to lose that one, especially since BYU doesn't really play the greatest on the road. And we all remember that Arizona State needed 5 to beat BYU. I think Arizona State knew they were going to get a battle from BYU, even though BYU's not the best road team outside of Smith Fieldhouse. And I think for BYU, I thought that BYU had their chances in sets 2 and 3, but unfortunately did not take advantage of them. We also had number 7 Louisville sweeping NC State, number 9 Purdue sweeping Penn State, number 10 SMU sweeping Virginia, number 12 Creighton taking down Villanova in 4. Number 16 TCU took down Utah in 4. Number 19 Tennessee swept Vanderbilt on the road. This one was a close call. Number 18 Indiana took down Iowa, unranked Iowa, in 5. So that would have been a big, I wouldn't say loss or a bad loss, but it could have been a massive, I hate to use the term letdown spot, but I feel that could have been a massive blow to Indiana's chances of hosting in the top in the NCAA tournament, as the Hoosiers were led by Candela Alonso Corcelis, who had 24 kills. Jane Jagger had 14 kills, and then Avery Tatum had 11 kills. Emma Siegel didn't. She only played 3 sets. Moving on, Indiana had a hitting percentage of .231. They had 6 aces, 10 service errors, which isn't ideal. They did, however, have 13 blocks, which is very nice, and 66 digs is also pretty good for them as well. Iowa was led by Charday Van Zant, who had 21 kills. They also got 11 kills from Hannah Whittingstall. They got 10 kills from Carnell Varys, and then they got 10 kills from Alyssa Warden. I got to give it to Iowa. They really held their own. They had 71 digs, which was very good. They did, however, have 9 blocks as a team, which isn't terrible, but compared to Indiana's 13, it wasn't all that great. And they kind of lost the service error ratio battle, but still a nice little effort from Iowa. I mean, that's the big thing about the Big Ten. Like, there's no real night off. I mean, you saw what Northwestern did with SC. They took them to 4, and you also saw what some of these other teams can do. Heck, even Rutgers almost pulled off a win against Michigan, but unfortunately, Michigan backdoor swept them, and in the 5th set, they were down 13-8, and then they closed off on a 7-0 run, which, man, you got to feel bad if you're Rutgers. I'm not sure if that was on Friday or if that was on Saturday, but either way, getting reverse swept and then losing in the 5th set. Yeah, it was on Friday. Yeah, Friday, Michigan reverse swept Rutgers, and it's been a minute since Rutgers has beaten Michigan in women's volleyball. I don't think it's actually happened, if you ask me, but God, if you're Rutgers, you got to be kicking yourself bad, especially since set 4 was also pretty close too. But Michigan's going to be an interesting team come NCAA tournament time. Do they deserve the NCAA tournament? I mean, one week it looks like Michigan, when we thought we have Michigan figured out, they almost beat a good team, but then they almost lose to another not so good team. So Michigan's an interesting team going forward, but we shall see. And then Baylor swept West Virginia, so no country road, take me home and whatnot. Anyway, moving on to Saturday, we had number 5 Stanford sweeping Duke. We had number 1 Nebraska sweeping Minnesota on the road. Look, Nebraska is just on a whole other level. This is a scary Nebraska team, and I don't see this Nebraska team slowing down for anybody. And they're the only undefeated team in NCAA Women's Volleyball Division I, and they have not lost a set at all in Big Ten Conference play, as the Huskers were led by Andy Jackson, 15 kills, Taylor Landfair, 11 kills, and Rebecca Alec added 10 kills of her own. Nebraska hit 434. I think in the previous match they hit 500, but we're not looking back now. They had 47 digs. They didn't even need to bring their best. Their offense just pretty much was the shining force for them, as Minnesota was led by Julia Hansen. She had 13 kills, only 3 hitting errors. Then Carly Gilk had 10 kills, and she actually hit 533. Unfortunately, she and her team were playing Nebraska, which Nebraska is just a force to be reckoned with. They just dig the ball like crazy. Lainey Choboy and Harper Murray, they had 15 and 12 digs, respectively. I think Lainey Choboy might be one of the more humble leaders on Nebraska. She doesn't even care about the whole libero battle thing following the graduation of Lexi Rodriguez. All she wants is for Nebraska to win a national championship and for her to be part of that as well. Staying in the Big Ten, we had number 9 Purdue taking down Iowa in 4. We had Kansas sweeping Cincinnati. We had we'll save the Big Ten sweeps for later. But we also had number 14 Miami outlasting Florida State again in 5 sets. This time it was in Tallahassee on the campus of Florida State. And Florida State actually went up 2-1 in the match. And I was thinking this would be a big statement win for Florida State, but the Hurricanes were able to blow away the competition, as it was another masterclass performance from Flo Marie Heredia-Cullen, as she had 32 kills. I think for Miami, they'll go as far as Flo Marie Heredia-Cullen takes them. She is just outstanding. 32 kills. That's over half of the total kills on Miami. Miami didn't have another player in double digits in terms of kills other than Cullen, as Sonja Danilovic had 8 kills. And then they got 6 kills from Ariana Rodriguez and Dahlia Wilson. Miami hit 236, and for Florida State, they hit only 159, which is not good. And then Miami, this is where Miami really shined. Their defense, 53 digs to Florida State's 38, and then they had nine blocks as a team compared to Florida State's 8, which that's not too bad. The Noles were led by Kylene Phil Maua, who had 19 kills, as well as Ian Hankey, which I think might be an all-time name. But it wasn't enough, as the Noles missed another golden opportunity to try to pull off an upset and improve their chances of making the NCAA tournament. Now let's jump to the Big Ten upsets. First upset, we had Kansas State sweeping number 20 Colorado at home. This Kansas State team is a really interesting squad. First and foremost, huge shout out to former set point guest Steve Astor, as he's the assistant coach for K-State. Second and foremost, Kansas State, they make a compelling argument to make the NCAA tournament. They've beaten some good teams like Kansas, Colorado. The list goes on, as the Wildcats were led by Anaya Clinton, who had 17 kills. Shaylee Myers added 11 kills, and Reagan Fox had 8 kills. As a team, the Wildcats hit 324 compared to Colorado's 172. They also had 40 digs to Colorado's 31, and then they had 9 blocks compared to Colorado's 4 as a team. The Buffs were led by Anna Burilovic, who had 10 kills. Sydney Jordan had 9 kills, and then Kayla Payne added 7 kills. It wasn't enough, as K-State pulled off the win. Great win, even though the second set was pretty close. And then in the second upset from the Big 12 on Saturday, we had UCF pulling off its second straight upset in the Big 12 as they swept number 24 Iowa State. The stats were fairly close, 25-20, 25-20, and 25-21, but the Golden Knights are putting themselves on the map as they had 3 different players with 10 kills: Skylar English, Ava Amor, and Ella Chapman. They almost had 4 different players with 10-plus kills, as Sasha Cohen had 9 kills. As a team, UCF hit 297, but as a team, UCF had 5 different players with 7 or more kills, as Reagan Thompson had 7 kills. Like I said, UCF hit 297 compared to Iowa State's 174. Alexa Haley also had 17 digs to lead the Golden Knights in that department. Armour had 15 digs, and then Abby Skomers had 11 digs, as the Cyclones were led by Maya Duckworth, who had 10 kills. Their next kill leader was Tierney Jackson, who had 7 kills, and then they got 6 kills from Amiri Hendricks Walker, and as well as Reagan Hanfeld. But it was not enough, as the Golden Knights pulled off their second straight upset in the Big 12. And I guess I should mention, I'll circle back to the Big West in a little bit. But that was that for the notable matchups on Saturday. Then on Sunday, we had quite a bit of notable matchups. Let's start with the big one. Tennessee at number 2 Kentucky, or number 19 Tennessee at number 2 Kentucky. This one was an interesting matchup. Kentucky wound up winning in 4, but Eva Hudson rolled her ankle and she was in pain. The interesting thing is that she actually stayed in pretty much the entire match, but she was grimacing in pain. So if you're Kentucky, you kind of got to monitor that, because Kentucky still has the SEC tournament, which they don't want to lose if in the event that they don't want to go down in terms of their seeding in terms of the NCAA tournament. But despite rolling her ankle, Eva Hudson actually led Kentucky with 19 kills, and she hit 381. Man, that's impressive. Brooklyn DeLay had 18 kills, and then Kentucky also got 6 kills from Asia Thigpen. As a team, Kentucky hit 252. They had 5 aces and 5 errors for that perfect service ace to service error ratio. They had 50 digs, and they had 14 blocks as a team, which was pretty nice. Tennessee hit 240, and they only had 1 ace to 12 service errors. Yeesh. And they had 57 digs, which was nice. Outdid Kentucky in that department. But they only had 7 blocks as a team, as the Lady Vols were led by Hayden Kubik, who had 16 kills. Star Williams added 15 kills, and then Chelsea Sutton added 10 kills. Unfortunately, it was not enough as Tennessee just could not pull off the upset against their SEC longtime foe. Moving on, we had number 3 Pitt sweeping Virginia, number 7 Louisville taking down Wake Forest in 4. We had SMU sweeping Virginia Tech. We had Creighton sweeping Georgetown on senior night, which, man, that's an emotional senior night, especially with Ava Martin on the departure list, which it's tough. Then we had this little interesting matchup. Number 11 Wisconsin swept number 18 Indiana. So this is a unique matchup just because guess who is back? Charlie Furbringer. She is back and better than ever after missing quite a bit of time due to a shoulder injury. She is back, and she had 28 assists in her return. She also had 8 digs and 2 kills as well. Leading Wisconsin in the kill department was Mimi Collier, who had 14 kills and 10 digs. They also got 11 kills from Carter Booth, as she had 0 hitting errors and 15 attempts for a hitting percentage of .733, which was very nice. And she also had 5 blocks. I think Charlie Furbringer making her return might be the best thing for Wisconsin just because Furbringer is a very, very, very good setter. And honestly, I feel this isn't anywhere near disrespect to Addie Horner, but I think Charlie Furbringer is the key for this Wisconsin offense. They will go as Charlie Furbringer goes. And without her, I just feel that Wisconsin isn't as complete as most people think they are. And then Indiana, they were led by Jaden Jagger, who had 14 kills. Indiana also got 7 kills from Candela Alonso Corcelis and then 6 kills from Avery Tatum. But it wasn't enough as Wisconsin was able to take down the Hoosiers in fairly good fashion. Third set was fairly close, but the Badgers just handled them really good. I was not expecting that to be I would say a beatdown, but I just felt that Wisconsin, I think Charlie Furbringer is just the missing key component for this Wisconsin team. They really do miss Charlie Furbringer, and I'm glad she's back. Then we had number 16 TCU sweeping West Virginia. Number 23 Baylor swept Utah. Number 17 USC took down Washington on the road in 4. Number 25 Penn State took down Illinois on the road in 4, which was good for them. I do want to look up SC's remaining schedule just because, look, USC is going to be interesting going forward. I really want SC to host in the NCAA tournament, the first couple rounds of the NCAA tournament. I would like nothing more than see the women of Troy hosting in the NCAA tournament. It's been a minute, and you look at this USC team, they're starting 3 freshmen, which is very, very impressive. And London Weejay is just been on a tear. So anyway, USC's remaining schedule. I hate to have to just bring this up over and over and over again, but I really want to see SC host the NCAA tournament. Anyway, so this week USC is at home against Rutgers, and then they've got the Nebraska matchup, which that's going to be pretty tough. I mean, Rutgers they should handle fairly easily. Nebraska is going to be a tough one. Nebraska, look, I wouldn't be surprised if SC lost to Nebraska. I also wouldn't be surprised if SC wound up taking a set off Nebraska, but with how good Nebraska is playing, I just don't see how USC slows down Nebraska. But winning a set off of Nebraska would be massive. But the schedule after Nebraska gets tough as they've got Oregon. They're at Oregon, not this Wednesday, but the following Wednesday, which is going to be and it's a late start, 7:30 p.m. And then they've got Illinois on Saturday as well. I was gonna go to that matchup, but then I realized I think UCI plays Cal Poly, which, with all due respect to Illinois, I think that's also the CIF state finals as well. So with all due respect to USC, as much as I'd like to see their senior night, I just can't really afford to miss a bunch of the other matches, a bunch of other volleyball content related things. And then they close off the season against Michigan and Michigan State, which, I mean, Michigan State, maybe they can handle. Michigan's kind of going to be the more concerning matchup, and especially since they're on the road to close out the season. And it's a young team, so I just feel that this this USC team might be in for a little bit of a rough ride. Like after they face Rutgers, they get the meat and potatoes of their schedule. They get quite a bit of really good opponents. I mean, Nebraska, obviously, we all know that that's pretty much going to be a tough uphill climb. Oregon is a good team. My only thing is that Oregon hasn't really pulled off too many big wins. But you saw what they did against UCLA. They took them down twice. So that one might be a trap game written all over it for USC. And then Illinois is also fighting for their NCAA tournament lives. I mean, that could only help Illinois' chances of making the NCAA tournament. But that's going to be their senior night. I expect them to play with a lot of fire in their bellies. Michigan State is an interesting team. I mean, all their losses have come in Big Ten play, and they're 8-6 in conference play and 18-6 overall. I would say Michigan State could be a trap game, but I just need to see more from Michigan State. And then Michigan is an interesting team. They only have one loss outside of the Big Ten, and they too are also fighting for their NCAA tournament lives, which I think will be really interesting for USC because, again, USC will have nothing more than to host the NCAA tournament. And then but then you also got to factor in the Indiana loss, but you also have to factor in the Wisconsin win, and then you also have to factor in Nebraska in their schedule as well. But then again, everyone else can. But USC winning a set off of Nebraska would be the greatest thing for them, but this is a young USC team. So anyway, enough about me fanboying about USC and hoping for the best. Let's go on into the AVCA Division I women's volleyball poll for this week. Not a lot of changes, as 1 through 19 actually stayed the same. The biggest riser was Minnesota and Baylor, both going up 2 spots. No one dropped out of the top 25, which is rather fascinating if you ask me. So you didn't miss much. There was only 3 upsets, but let's actually circle the wagons back to week 11 and let's talk a little Big West. So the Big West, Cal Poly, they are still on one. And Friday I did actually attend the UC Irvine UC Davis match at the Brent Event Center. So the reason why it started at 1 p.m. Pacific time is because there was actually a UC Irvine men's basketball game, and there was no Teraflex, which is rather fascinating if you ask me. So in the end, UC Davis was able to take down UC Irvine. It was a little grindy as the first 2 sets, I felt UC Irvine had chances, but unfortunately Davis just took advantage of the situation, and they made sure that UC Irvine didn't have any chance of a comeback, as Jade Light actually led the way with 13 kills and 20 digs. She was big. Brooke Habino was also big. Mia Starr was also big at setter as well. I think for this Davis team, they're having a great season, but I think there's still some doubt within them just because I feel they definitely have a good shot at winning the Big West Conference Championship, but they still have to get past the likes of Cal Poly, but we'll see. And then speaking of Cal Poly, they swept Long Beach State at Mott Athletics Center, which, look, that's a great win right there for Cal Poly, because Cal Poly lost to Long Beach State the first go around, and I was there, and they just played a whole lot better volleyball, in my opinion. And honestly, I think Cal Poly kind of squashed the rumors of their demise. And then UC San Diego swept UC Santa Barbara, which was a very nice win for the Tritons, considering they have not had an ideal season. But the fact that they were able to pull off that win was very impressive, in my opinion. And then jumping over to Saturday in terms of Big West Conference week. I think also on Friday we had Hawaii sweeping CSUN at Hawaii, which was very big just because that's a great win for the Rainbow Wahine. It keeps them in the running to finish in the top 6 in the Big West Conference, because only the top 6 advanced to the Big West Conference Championship. And yeah, Hawaii did sweep CSUN, and they also swept Bakersfield the day after, which was very nice. I think that was their senior night, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong. Either way, Hawaii, don't look now, but Hawaii is back and better than ever. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Hawaii were able to win, if Hawaii just messed around and won the Big West Conference Championship. I think they have a lot of confidence in them. I think this week proves that they definitely have what it takes to win. I know it was only against Bakersfield, and CSUN's still a good team. CSUN is a magnificent team. It's just that I think we could still see a little bit more from Hawaii. And you also got to remember that UC Irvine is still on their coattails. So looking at Hawaii's remaining schedule, Hawaii in the last 4 matches, this week their last 4 matches are actually going to be kind of tricky. So this week they're at UC Santa Barbara and at Cal Poly. Oh, great. That's not good. And then the final week of the regular season, they are home against UC San Diego, which they should beat. And then Long Beach State, that one is going to be 50-50 right there. It depends on what Long Beach State comes out to play. Will Long Beach trot out the team that actually looks pretty good, or will Long Beach State trot out the team that looks pretty meh, if you ask me? And then looking at UC Irvine's schedule, their schedule is kind of interesting as well, as they're at CSUN on Thursday, which that has massive implications for the Big West Conference tournament. And then they're at Bakersfield on Saturday, which if they go 2-0 that week, then they definitely have a shot, especially since they beat CSUN the first go-around. Though they did lose to Bakersfield the first go-around as well. So Irvine they can ill afford any losses because their final 2 matches are against UCSB and Cal Poly, but they're both at home. So that'll be interesting right there for the Anteaters. And then because they're a game behind Hawaii and CSUN. And then for CSUN, closing off their schedule, as I mentioned, they've got UC Irvine this Thursday. And then they've also got Cal State Fullerton this Saturday as well. Then next week, they're at UC Davis and then at UC Riverside. I don't really see CSUN falling out of the top 6. The only way they fall out of the top 6 is if they lose out, and then Irvine at least wins 2. Or at least wins 1 more outside of the CSUN match. So teams that have already clinched a spot in the Big West Conference tournament are UC Davis, Cal Poly, and I think it's just those 2. I think Santa Barbara is on the doorstep of clinching, and then Long Beach State might be on the doorstep of clinching. Now that I mentioned Long Beach State and UC Santa Barbara, those 2 actually played on Saturday, and Santa Barbara actually took down the Beach in 4. So my takeaway for Long Beach State is this. This is a little concerning for the Beach because now they've lost 2 straight, and they've got UC Riverside on Thursday. They've got UC Davis on Friday. I'm 50-50 on going to that. I might go to that, but it's not certain. Their final week of the regular season, they're at UC San Diego and then at Hawaii. Again, the Hawaii matchup, I think, is going to basically boil down to if Hawaii gets in or not. And I expect Hawaii to play with a lot of fire. And then San Diego, look, I mean, Long Beach did struggle against the Tritons the first go-around, but I can see Long Beach State winning that matchup. My only concerns for Long Beach State is they face Riverside, and they have to go 5 with them again, which – oh, no, they swept UC Riverside. I'm sorry. I'm getting Bakersfield and Riverside mixed up. But my only concern for Long Beach is that they have a letdown spot against UC San Diego, and then they just – lay an egg against Davis, which Davis is going to be the tough one, but we shall see. And then UC Santa Barbara, I already mentioned that they've got Hawaii. I think they've got UC San Diego as well. No, they've got Cal Poly on Thursday and then Hawaii on Friday, which that's a gauntlet on its own. And then they're at UC Irvine and then at Cal State Fullerton. So I really don't see how Santa Barbara falls out of the top 6. I mean, unless they have like an even bigger collapse than from last year, I just don't see how Santa Barbara and Long Beach fall out of the top 4. I think Long Beach will win at least 2. Santa Barbara will at least win 1, maybe 2. It's Hawaii's my biggest concern because I think if Irvine wins 2, and then Hawaii wins only 1, and then Irvine and Hawaii are tied with one another at the end, Irvine has the tiebreaker over Hawaii. And if Irvine plays their cards right against CSUN, they could have the tiebreaker over them. So then it gets really interesting. Then it boils, if it comes down to tiebreaker between CSUN, Hawaii, and Irvine. Irvine would have the higher seed over CSUN and Hawaii. And then between Hawaii and CSUN, that's when it gets really interesting. Because CSUN lost to Hawaii the second time around, but then the first time around, CSUN wound up winning the first go around. So this gets really interesting. It boils down to numbers and overall points. So I'd hate to be pulling out my calculator at the worst possible time, but I digress. All right, but that is that for the Big West Conference. I know everyone doesn't really want to hear me talk Big West Conference all day. Let's get on into week 12 of the NCAA women's volleyball season. So should have a little bit more of a eventful week this week, as we've got quite a bit of notable matchups. We have eight ranked on ranked matchups. None on Wednesday, so the ranked on ranked matchups won't start until Thursday when TCU plays at Colorado. That could be an interesting matchup. Also on Wednesday, could be an interesting matchup, Texas A&M at Florida. That could kind of be an interesting matchup because Florida is still out for respect in terms of being ranked, but we'll have to wait and see when it comes to the Gators. Then we jump to Friday. Friday is when it starts to get really, really fascinating. So number one, Nebraska is at UCLA. That one might have it be a trap game written all over it for Nebraska, is what I would say if Nebraska wasn't number one in the nation. I mean, Nebraska does have to go out to the West Coast, and you got to remember UCLA did almost they threw everything in the kitchen sink at Wisconsin last year. So, and UCLA does have a talented team. My only thing is for UCLA is they're inconsistent. Nebraska should be able to handle them. I just don't see how the Bruins take down the Huskers. And then number two, Kentucky is hosting Oklahoma. I would not be surprised if Craig Skinner gave Eva Hudson a minutes restriction or if she just sat her against Oklahoma. I think that would mean Brooklyn DeLay would have to take over, but honestly, I would not risk Eva Hudson getting hurt. Would it not be ideal to play her against an opponent that you know you can beat? Yes. But would you not want to take any chances in case Oklahoma does pull off the upset? No. I mean, it all depends on what Craig Skinner does. Again, it wouldn't surprise me if Eva Hudson didn't play a whole lot or if she just didn't play it at all. But we'll have to wait and see what Kentucky wants to do. Then this is the match of the week right here. Number 3 Pitt at number 5 Stanford. This one's going to be a fun one. I think this one has ACC championship hopes on the line for both of these teams. And this one's another interesting matchup. Oregon at Indiana. Again, Oregon hasn't been the best team, but I could see them hanging with Indiana. I just don't know if Indiana will be losing. I mean, I think Indiana is just too good to lose to Oregon, but you never know with Oregon. I mean, they're well coached, and Oregon will be fighting for their NCAA tournament lives. Then you got the Holy War with number 23 BYU at Utah. That one's going to be a fun matchup. And this one's another interesting matchup. Number 24 Penn State taking on number 20 Minnesota. That one I think is going to be an interesting matchup just because Minnesota's banged up, but Penn State just has no consistency. I mean, they did rediscover themselves against Illinois, but let's kind of be honest, it's only Illinois. And I say that with all due respect to Chris Tomas. I'm not saying that because Illinois is mid. I'm just saying that because I think for Illinois, they're good, but they're not in that upper echelon of the Big Ten. And again, I say that with all due respect to Illinois. Anyway, Saturday we've got number 8 Arizona State at number 22 Colorado. That could be a fun matchup. I mean, Arizona State on the road, we'll see what they can bring. Again, with Oregon, they're at number 9 Purdue. Maybe Oregon can play spoiler. I mean, again, they're fighting for their NCAA tournament lives. I mean, or at least to make 500 or better. So we'll have to wait and see what Oregon does. Number 11, Wisconsin's at Illinois on Saturday. I can kind of see Illinois I hanging with Wisconsin, but with Charlie Furbringer back, I just think Wisconsin is going to be too much for them. Then we have number 13, Kansas at Kansas State. This one is an interesting matchup. Remember, Kansas State beat Kansas the first go-around. Can Kansas State do it again? Kansas State is also fighting for their NCAA tournament lives, and they have a compelling argument to make the NCAA tournament. Then you have number 16, TCU at number 25, Iowa State. I mean, TCU is right on the doorstep of either not hosting or being on the first one out in terms of hosting, in terms of the NCAA tournament. But, boy, I would say this one's a must-win for TCU, but I think they got to win this one. If they lose this one and then SC pretty much runs the table, then they can kiss their hopes of hosting in the NCAA tournament goodbye. And then there's also number 21, Baylor at Houston. Yeah. Then on Sunday, we have number 1, Nebraska at number 17, USC. I really want to attend that matchup. I got to get into contact with Jeremy Woo. This might be the best and only time I get to see Nebraska women's volleyball in person. Then there's Arkansas at number 2, Kentucky. That is probably the matchup where I expect Craig Skinner to rest Eva Hudson, or at least just play one set. I mean, if Kentucky wants to have Eva Hudson at full strength and they don't want to risk her getting hurt, rest her against Arkansas. Arkansas, with all due respect to Arkansas, they're not the best team. Anyway, you got SMU at number 5, Stanford, which I think is going to be another barn burner. This week is basically make or break for Stanford. If they can at least pull off one win, they're still probably in the hunt for the ACC crown. That said, if they pull off both wins, then their chances of winning the conference championship is probably significant, especially since Miami is at Louisville. And Louisville, here's the thing about Louisville. Will Louisville get the Miami team that has to bank on Flo Marie Heredia-Colon every single match, or will Louisville be prepared for that? Will Miami have to just lean on Flo Marie Heredia-Colon every single time? That's my big thing right there. If Miami thinks that they could just lean on Flo Marie Heredia-Colon every single time, it's not going to work, because Louisville has a lot of good block enforcers at the net. So, yeah, there you go. And then that is pretty much going to do it. I mean, there's some other matchups here and there. Oklahoma, Tennessee, meh. Georgia, Texas A&M. I mean, that could kind of be a sneaky good matchup, but let's be honest, Texas A&M is still playing some darn good volleyball. And then Minnesota, Iowa. This could probably be a good chance for Iowa to pull an upset, but let's be honest, Iowa is, I mean, they're not the best of the bunch in terms of the Big Ten, so you have that right there. So that'll do it for the Week 12 preview. Again, 8 ranked-on-ranked matches this week, as the headline match is Pitt at Stanford. All right, that'll do it for the NCAA Women's Volleyball Week 12 preview. Let's take ourselves a quick commercial break. When we come back, I've got some crow to eat, because I'm going to be talking some CIF Southern Section Division I girls volleyball recap. And then I'll also talk a little NCAA men's volleyball before I end off the show. So keep it locked here. You are listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the iSports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop, including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daryl Kinsey Jr., and I'm welcoming you to take another lap with the fastest show on IE Sports Radio. Yes, this is the Extra Mile with me and my co-hosts Christopher Lehman and Michael Ward. We talk everything racing from NASCAR to IndyCar to Formula One to limited hydroplanes, endurance racing, the NHRA, and more. So come join us for an hour of great racing talk and a lot of fun as well on the Extra Mile, Thursdays at 8 p.m. only on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the '08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies.
And your one-timers.
You wicked wristas.
And be sure to protect your five-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Dentarius Lava.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That gives you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
Back with the second half of Set Point on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows dedicated to all sports around the country. With that being said, let us get back on into the volleyball action. So let's talk some high school girls volleyball. And as the title states, it says, Dear Sierra Canyon, I apologize. Well, you're wondering why I titled it that. Well, Sierra Canyon proved me wrong. They took down Mater Dei in the CIF Southern Section Division I Girls Volleyball Final in 4 sets, 23-25, 25-23, 25-20, and 25-21. First set was pretty much a back and forth set. It felt like Mater Dei was up, but they weren't leading by too much. So, I mean, they could not shake Sierra Canyon for the love of them. So, I think for Sierra Canyon, they came ready to play. It's just that Mater Dei still had the firepower within their arsenal. And I think that's kind of that finals experience that I mentioned last week was what really kind of propelled Mater Dei early and often. Now, second set, it felt a little bit more like Mater Dei was going to kind of run away with it. They're actually up 15-10. And I think it was when Addison Cody, who put down a overpass kill and really hyped up the Mater Dei crowd, it felt like all the momentum was on Mater Dei's side. But Sierra Canyon just did not give up. They wound up continuing to continuing to play their game. They were just plugging away, chipping away point after point, forcing Mater Dei into errors. And honestly, I think that second set where Maddie Zaragoza went on a serving run really mattered. If Maddie Zaragoza does not serve tough and she doesn't serve the lights out, I don't know if Sierra Canyon wins that second set. I mean, she was one of the reasons why Mater Dei or Sierra Canyon won, but I just felt that Mater Dei just could not close out. In the end, Sierra Canyon took the second set 25-23. Third set, Sierra Canyon actually built themselves up quite a little bit of a sizable lead. They led 12-7 at the TV timeout. It felt like all the momentum was with Sierra Canyon, but Mater Dei eventually went up to 18 to, I think, 16, and they were just throwing a block party. But just when I thought Mater Dei had all the momentum, Sierra Canyon wound up going on a 3-0 run. They led 20-18, I think. And either way, they took the third set 25-20. It just felt like Sierra Canyon had the answer for Mater Dei every time Mater Dei just tried to get the lead down. And then the fourth set, Sierra Canyon jumped out to a big lead. And even though Mater Dei had their chances and they actually did lead for a little bit, again, Sierra Canyon just had the answer for them. They just had everyone pull their weight. It wasn't just one player that did all the grunt work. It was a lot of players. There were a lot of unsung heroes. As in the end, Eva Jeffries and Kendall Omarui combined for the double block to win Sierra Canyon the match. As Sierra Canyon wound up winning their fourth CIF Southern Section title in girls volleyball, and their second in Division I, as Sierra Canyon was led by USC commit McKenna McIntosh and Nebraska commit Kendall Omarui. Both had 13 kills, which is very good. Eva Jeffries, who's uncommitted and is getting comparisons to Olivia Babcock, she had 11 kills. And then Hannah McGinnis, who is Riley McGinnis's sister and Willie McGinnis' daughter, she had 10 kills. But like I mentioned, an unsung hero was Maddie Zaragoza. She had 14 digs and 4 service aces. And you got to remember, Maddie Zaragoza was the defensive specialist last year because she had to sit behind Lauren Lynch, who is a D1 bound libero who's playing at San Diego. And then another kind of unsung hero was Lucky Fasavalu. Her serving was tough. If you've seen Lucky Fasavalu play, she has a wicked topspin serve, and it really threw Mater Dei off its game. Fasavalu had 40 assists to go along with 7 digs and 3 aces and 2 kills. I would surprise me if Fasavalu did get the CIF Player of the Year. And then I guess I should mention this girl, Kalani Olive. I mean, she was the other middle blocker for Sierra Canyon. She did have a service ace. She had 2 blocks and 1 kill. But I don't want to say this in a negative way, but Zion Ziggy, I forget her last name. Zeddy's, I think her last name is. She actually wound up being hurt, and I guess she's pretty much out for like majority of the season, if not all of the season, because she had a walking boot on her foot. So that's the indicator of she's not going to be back on the court anytime soon. But looking at the numbers for Sierra Canyon, they hit 266 and held Mater Dei to under 200, holding them to 184. Both teams had 10 service aces. Sierra Canyon only had one more service error, being 9, while Mater Dei had 8. Sierra Canyon had 10 blocks compared to Mater Dei's 8. The dig department was led by Mater Dei. They had 48 digs, while Sierra Canyon had 45. But it just felt like Sierra Canyon's offense was more fluid, and I felt that Sierra Canyon just put a lot of pressure on Mater Dei in terms of the serve-receive game. Now, Mater Dei, they were led by Layli Ostavar and Wesley Matavau, both having 15 kills. Ostavar had 9 digs. It just didn't feel like Matavau was their... I mean, she was good and all, and Matavau also had 7 digs, but it just felt like she didn't have her explosive self, because in the first couple rounds, she was just on a tear. Against Harvard Westlake and San Juan Hills, she was on a tear. She was also pretty good against Sierra Canyon, but she wasn't as explosive. An unsung hero, in my opinion, for Mater Dei was Emma Kingston, who had 14 kills, and she hit 407. Tiani Shaw also had 3 service aces. She was kind of a serving sub, which was pretty good. Lizzie Robinson had 2 aces to go along with 6 assists and 12 digs. Kalea Lee also had 4 service aces to go along with 6 digs and 25 assists. Sam Kapinpin had 10 digs to go along with 16 assists. But it wasn't enough, as Sierra Canyon dethroned Mater Dei, ending their 2-year run of CIS Southern Section Division I champions. Mater Dei was trying to three-peat for the first time since 2003 when Craig Pizzanti was their head coach. But it wasn't meant to be, as Sierra Canyon was on their A game, and they wound up pulling out the win. And in the match, it was actually quite the packed house. There was 1,176 in attendance, which was pretty good if you ask me. I thought that Sierra Canyon and Mater Dei sides both showed up and showed out. I was really impressed, because I don't want to say this negatively about some college schools, but I don't even think college teams or college matches even get 1,000 in attendance. So overall for this matchup, I thought that it was a great win for Sierra Canyon, and they finally finished the job. Okay, now it's time for me to say what I need to say about Sierra Canyon. Dear Sierra Canyon girls volleyball and dear Sierra Canyon Nation, I apologize for picking against y'all. I was not familiar with your game. Translation, this is basically me. I owe you an apology. Oh, hold on. This is me. I owe you an apology. I wasn't really familiar with your game. So, yeah, I deserve to eat all the crow in the world. And look, I picked Mater Dei just on sheer fact of team chemistry that Mater Dei had and finals experience. And some of the Sierra Canyon players like McKenna McIntosh and Kendall Omarui haven't been in a CIS Southern Section Division I final. I know other players like Eva Jeffries, Lucky Fasavalu, and Hannah McGinnis were on last year's team, as well as Maddie Zaragoza, who I thought was also on last year's team, but she was a defensive specialist. But I didn't think that Sierra Canyon was going to put it together when it came to the final, but they really proved me wrong. Kendall Omarui might have had the finals match of her life, as she had a lot of swagger, and the plays that she made at the net, offensively or defensively, her team fed off. And I think Kendall Omarui is one of those energy players. And Nebraska is going to be really, really excited to have her, just because she's one of those high energy players, and she can even play the right side. I think Kendall Omarui was the biggest difference maker for Sierra Canyon. And she is so tough to stop, just because she's like 6'5", 6'6". And she is just a tough player, and she is someone you don't want to mess with. She has so much swag. Like, when she roofs you, she's kind of going to give you a little bit of a stare down. And honestly, I feel for some of the Mater Dei players, because some of them are going to have to play against Kendall Omarui when it comes to the Big Ten, aka Addison Cody, Layli Ostavar, Wesley Matavau, and Lizzie Robinson. But I digress in that regard. But that was an impressive win for Sierra Canyon, and I do apologize to Sierra Canyon for picking against y'all. Again, I wasn't familiar with your game. I thought Mater Dei had the team chemistry. But here's where I think I was wrong. I think Sierra Canyon's path to the final was a little bit more tricky. I mean, you could also say that the quarterfinals between Temecula and Sierra Canyon and Harvard, Westlake, and Mater Dei, I think that was expected. The semifinals, I think Sierra Canyon grinding out that 5-set match against Marymount was big. Now, I'm not going to try to discredit San Juan Hills in their run, but I just think Mater Dei had the blueprint to try to stop San Juan Hills, even on the road. Now, would Redondo have beaten Mater Dei or given them a tougher time? Maybe. But honestly, I think for Mater Dei, I just felt that Sierra Canyon's path to the final wasn't as grueling and twisty as it was as Mater Dei's was. I think Mater Dei pretty much coasted through most of their matches. And then when they dropped that second set, they were like, oh my goodness, we dropped a set and this isn't like us. So I think for Sierra Canyon, they were more battle tested in terms of their playoff run. Was that the big reason why Sierra Canyon won? No, that was only like a fragment. But I just felt that Sierra Canyon had the better team chemistry and they just had the better overall gameplay. And they responded well to adversity. So I think for Sierra Canyon, this is the start of something special because one of the CIF people, when cleaning up, he said that was an amazing volleyball match and it was an upset. And I had to tell him, not really, because Sierra Canyon is ranked higher of Mater Dei because Sierra Canyon's number 2 in the nation. Mater Dei was number 3. Sierra Canyon was seeded number 1. Mater Dei was number 3. This was the first meeting between these two teams. I just felt, I get why Mater Dei was the reigning back-to-back champion, but Sierra Canyon was the number 1 overall seed. They were the better team overall. So I think then they have the better overall records. And something else to note is that Sierra Canyon has not lost a match in California this season, which is pretty darn impressive if you ask me. So Sierra Canyon is really, 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 really talented. And honestly, this team is going to be good next year because most of those players, Hannah McGinnis, Lucky Fasavalo, Eva Jeffries, Kendall Omarui, and McKenna McIntosh, they'll be back next year. That's 5 starters that they return. Like, this Sierra Canyon team is going to be really fun. I think fun next year. But their season's far from over. My only concern is for Sierra Canyon is who's going to be their libero next year when Maddie Zaragoza graduates. It's going to be another case of who's going to replace Lauren Lynch this year. But I already knew Zaragoza was going to be the libero this year just because she looked really good in the final last year, and I think she had worked the hardest in terms of trying to get that libero spot. But I digress. All right, but that is that right there. And again, I apologize to Sierra Canyon. I do appreciate Stephanie Wigfall for being a good sport about it. When I interviewed her, she said me picking against them motivated the girls, and I look. It's not the first time I've been wrong about the CIF Southern Section girls volleyball final. 2 years ago, like I said, I picked Miracosta to beat Mater Dei, and I had to eat lots of crow the following episode, which. Yeah, but this time around, I kind of have an excuse just because I didn't know what to expect with these two. I thought both these teams were evenly matched. This was the first meeting between these two teams. I just felt that Sierra Canyon just made a bigger and better play or two when it came to winning this whole thing. So, again, Sierra Canyon was incredible, and I got to tip my hat to them. All right, but that is that for the Division I Southern Section final recap. Now let's move on to the CIF State Open Division, which state begins this week. So the Open Division is the highest division. The NorCal region consists of Redwood at Archbishop Mitty, Marion Catholic at Folsom, St. Francis at Rockland, and that is Rockland, right? Yeah, Rockland, and then St. Ignatius at Branson. So, look. Nothing against the Northern California region of the state bracket, but I think the title goes through Archbishop Mitty. Now, there's a team that I think can make a deep run to the postseason when it comes to the state championship, and that's St. Francis. Don't be surprised if St. Francis manages to make a deep playoff run. I think they have a good chance at meeting Archbishop Mitty in the NorCal regional final. But I definitely think Archbishop Mitty does have what it takes to make it to the state final, which will be held not this Saturday, but the following Saturday at Santiago Canyon College. And then for the SoCal region, that's going to be a little bit more tricky. This one I think the SoCal region's up for grabs. So you look at the 8-1 matchup, Miracosta at Sierra Canyon. I think that's a really good matchup. Even though Sierra Canyon's the 1 seed and they just dominated Mater Dei after losing that first set, I wouldn't be surprised if Miracosta threw everything that they had at Sierra Canyon and more, because Costa is a darn good team. And my only problem is with Miracosta against Sierra Canyon, that long layoff. I think it'll be like 2 weeks since they last played a match. So I think for Miracosta, that's my only concern about them. But I can expect Miracosta to try to give Sierra Canyon all that it can handle. But I think for Sierra Canyon, they should pull that win off. Marymount Cathedral Catholic is also going to be a little bit of a tricky matchup, just because Cathedral Catholic, they actually wound up finishing as the runner-up in the San Diego section Open Division playoff, where they lost in 3 straight to Torrey Pines. Cathedral Catholic's a good team, and Marymount is too. My only thing is that can Marymount win on the road? I don't think that's going to be possible. I think Cathedral Catholic's going to win, but it'll be 50-50. I think Cathedral Catholic has the players. Their biggest story is Bailey Wilson, who is 6'2". She's playing libero. I mean, I've seen a lot of roster switch ups when it comes to Cathedral Catholic, because Juliana Khan is a mastermind. But man, having a 6'2" libero, only a freshman, mind you, is just unheard of. I mean, it was tough seeing the graduation of Maya Evans, but still, man, that's incredible. And in case you're wondering, Bailey Wilson is actually the younger sister of Jordan Wilson, who is committed to play beach volleyball at Stanford. So you have that right there. And I think all those beach volleyball skills really helps out Bailey Wilson at the libero position. Then you got San Juan Hills at Torrey Pines in the 6 versus 3 matchup. All right, if there's one team that I think got the shaft when it came to this matchup, it's San Juan Hills. This is probably the most unfavorable matchup for San Juan Hills, because they got to go on the road. They're at Torrey Pines. Torrey Pines is a very good team. They wound up winning the San Diego section. And then San Juan Hills has a 1-week layoff. So that's my biggest concern for the Stallions. But if Megan Hodges is on her A game, and she has a legacy performance, I think San Juan Hills has a chance. But Torrey Pines is just playing on a whole other level. Finley Kristawiak is just an amazing player. And I wouldn't be surprised if Torrey Pines just handled San Juan Hills fairly easily. And then the 7 versus 2 matchup, Redondo Union at Mater Dei. All right, this one is probably the most interesting matchup. So Redondo has beaten Mater Dei this season. That said, it was when Mater Dei did not have Lily Ostavar at full strength. She was just playing back row defense and not playing front row. And then also most of Mater Dei's team wasn't fully cleared yet, and they were also banged up. But that said, I think Redondo Union has a chance against Mater Dei. I would not be surprised if Mater Dei had a little bit of a championship hangover. I think for Mater Dei, if they think they're going to roll into the MAC or the Murlo Athletics Center and they're going to get a free win against Redondo Union, they've got another thing coming. I think for Mater Dei, they got to really prepare for Redondo Union. Redondo has some good players. They've got Abby Zimmerman. They've got Taylor Boyce. They've got Sienna Castillo, Abby Harrell. A few other talented players that are D1 bound. I think I said Abby Harrell as well. But overall, this one's not going to be an easy matchup. And this could be the most misguiding 2 versus 7 matchup ever. And you got to remember that last year Mater Dei was the 2 seed, and they needed a reverse sweep to beat a Torrey Pines team who I think was missing Finley Kristawiak. But I expect Mater Dei to advance, but this matchup is not going to be anywhere easy. The only thing they have going for them is that Redondo Union has a 2-week layoff, because you got to remember, Redondo lost in the quarterfinals in the Southern Section playoffs, and that was on a Wednesday, and it'll be 2 weeks since the Seahawks have taken the court. But if they play their style of volleyball, they definitely have a chance, but it's not going to be anywhere easy. All right, but that is going to do it for the CIF Southern Section, or the CIF State Division in high school girls volleyball section of the show. So let's close off the show with some NCAA men's volleyball talk. So last Saturday, I went to the Long Beach State tournament. I didn't catch too much of the tournament. I only got to see Long Beach State and Pepperdine face one another, as well as Long Beach State and Vanguard face one another. I just could not. I woke up early. I pulled an all-nighter doing an article, and then I just wanted to go to bed after I did 3 and Out with Larry. I just could not. Didn't have the energy to go down to the Pyramid right away. But it was still pretty fun. I got to interview Skylar Varga as well as Jonathan Winder, the head coach of Pepperdine, and I got this nice little play, which was which could have been a 30-second rally. But unfortunately, in another match at the tournament, the ball kind of rolled to the Pepperdine side. The Long Beach State player on the bench, he pretty much had to run to go get the ball to make sure it doesn't cross to Pepperdine. And the play had to be stopped and the point had to be replayed. But still, that was still a pretty incredible play right there. And that was the perfect clip for to post on Instagram, which I'll probably be posting the highlights of that match later on TikTok. And I guess I might as well go over the Long Beach State results. They swept the likes of Vanguard, the Masters College, and Concordia Irvine. They did. Oh yeah, and they also swept CSUN. They're at the Long Beach State tournament. They did, however, lose to Pepperdine, but it was still a grueling matchup. Like the first set was like 25-22. Second set was like 25-18. Pepperdine won the first set. Long Beach State won the second set 25-18. Then the third set was 15-12. But again, this is fall ball. If there's one rule when it comes to fall ball and one rule to spring ball or one rule to unofficial volleyball matches, please, for the love of all that is holy, do not take it seriously. I really, 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 really don't like it when people take fall matches or spring matches, depending on whether it's NCAA men's or women's volleyball, very seriously. So I think I mean, it's great that Pepperdine is looking good. Like, they looked really good in that tournament. They just, I think, might have been the most dominant team of the entire tournament. But let's be honest, Long Beach State, this is fall. I mean, and surprisingly, that was Pepperdine's only second event when it came to the fall. The previous week, they played UC Santa Barbara. So the fact that Pepperdine looked really good against the likes of Long Beach State and CSUN, among others, I think this Pepperdine team is going to be looking good when it comes to NCAA men's volleyball this year. But we shall see. Again, Long Beach State, for those that are curious, they actually have one more event. They're actually going down to Fresno for a tournament, but I don't expect to go down there. I'm sorry. As much as I would like to see some men's volleyball action, I just can't. I'm not going to go down and break the bank just to see a fall tournament match. But I digress. But again, it felt good to see some NCAA men's volleyball action. It's not going to be too long until we have the season happening. I think it's less than 2 months away before the NCAA men's volleyball season kicks off. It's probably going to be like the most random matchup. It's probably going to be like it was last year with Concordia Irvine hosting Brandon of Manitoba, Canada. So, well, I hope we get a better matchup. I really want to see like an event to kick off the season like the AVCA had, the First Serve Showcase. But we shall see. But that is actually going to do it for the NCAA men's volleyball talk. Again, something I mentioned like way back in October is that the MPSF is going to be having its first ever men's volleyball media day, and it's going to be in Costa Mesa at the Marriott, which I'll probably have more information in the, and you can probably check out the full information on the MPSF website. But that's going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. For everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have yourself an amazing week. Enjoy all the volleyball action. I will see you all most likely on Sunday for USC hosting Nebraska. If not, I shall see you for some high school girls volleyball matches, or I'll see you all on Friday for UC Davis at Long Beach State. But until then, have a great rest of the week. Enjoy all the volleyball action, and I will see you sooner rather than later. Peace!